Hello. Welcome to Get In We're Going Healing, a place where we talk about mental, spiritual, emotional, and physical well-being to help you let go of the things that are no longer serving you so you can be your best, your greatest, your highest, your most authentic version of you. Today, what I'd like to talk to you about is a little more in-depth topic about something that's been going on. So on my Instagram account, I recently reacted to a video by a creator named Cory Muscara, who is a former Buddhist monk. And he shares a lot of wisdom from the teachings of Buddhism and how it applies to regular life. And he recently shared a video that I reacted to where he said, sometimes the most compassionate thing you can do for another person is to let them struggle. It doesn't mean that you don't care about them, but it does mean that you've hit the end of what you can provide for that person, what you can do to help them grow. And you've hit the limit of the help that you can provide, and you have to step back and allow them to struggle and learn on their own. Now, I wanted to talk about that because I wanted to talk about what that means in terms of allowing people to struggle. Because when I shared it, this content has gained traction and it has gained a lot of views and it also a lot of likes and a lot of subscribers, which is awesome, a lot of followers. But it also brought up a lot of topics in the comments section, and a lot of people were commenting, and many people were in agreement with it. But there were some comments that went along the lines of, how can you let them suffer if you love them? And I absolutely understand that, because there was a time I used to feel that way too. On my healing path in the beginning, I used to feel like if you allowed someone to suffer, it was because you didn't care. And the universe has been slowly giving me lessons in this area, reminding me that it is not my job to learn other people's lessons for them. It is my job to learn the lessons I am designated to learn. I cannot learn other people's lessons for them. So that video essentially goes into talking about understanding that the most compassionate thing you can do sometimes is to let someone struggle. Because at some point in your helping guide someone, or maybe warning them of pitfalls, this can apply in addictions, this can apply with people who really struggle with overspending and being able to stick with a financial budget and tend to self-sabotage themselves. These are often in cases where people truly are self-sabotaging, where they are going against their own best interest, and they know that it's against their own best interest. They are not working towards what they truly want. They are working opposite of it. For whatever reason. It could be trauma, it could be avoidance. I mean, there's lots of things. In the case of someone who's an addict, they're using because they're avoiding feeling something that they don't want to feel. And by numbing themselves out, by engaging in the activity of addiction, they are avoiding feeling the uncomfortable feelings and then having to do something about those uncomfortable feelings. And sometimes when we do the work for other people, we actually prevent them from learning the lesson because they're not doing the work. We're doing it for them. If we take this on a smaller scale, let's say the example of helping your children with their homework. If you stand over their shoulder while they're doing their homework, and when they start to make a mistake, you jump in and guide them into the right answer. The problem in doing that over and over, in the beginning, that's fine. When you're just helping them in the beginning, you're giving them the opportunity to see how to do it, and you give them some guidance and say, well, see, this is how you did it, and you do this, and no, you did that wrong, you should do it like this. And that's great. But at some point, we have to let go and allow our children to do their homework on their own. And if they get it wrong, if they get a mistake, then so be it. They have to. because it's only in making the mistakes that we actually learn to grow. It's only in recognizing the error that we've made that we can make steps in the future to not repeat those same errors. And that's just on the small scale. If we open that up to a more spiritual concept, a little more psychological concept, when we stop people from feeling the ramifications of their actions and their choices, and we step in and soften the blow for them over and over and over, what happens is they continue the behavior because they haven't felt the sting that comes with the full set of consequences of their choices. So when Cory says the most compassionate thing we can do for someone, sometimes, not all times, okay, not all times, but sometimes, the most compassionate thing we can do is let someone struggle, because in their struggling, that is where their lesson is. They cannot overcome the lesson if they don't do the lesson. If we stop them from doing the lesson because we don't want to see them get hurt, or we're uncomfortable with how they're translating through their lesson, we're actually preventing them from doing the lesson. And that just keeps them stuck wherever they are, whatever it is they're supposed to grow through. Just like on your journey, when you are given a lesson, the universe gives you a specific lesson that you're learning. Maybe the lesson you're learning is how to have more self-worth. So in order for you to learn that lesson, the universe is going to give you situations in which you get to make a choice. You get to make a choice to do the same behavior you've been doing that does not honor you as a self, does not give you worth and value, gives that worth and value away to someone else. When you keep choosing to do that action of giving that away to someone else, looking to someone else to give you your value, you don't actually learn how to create that value within yourself. So at some point, the lesson has to become, stop making that choice. And now, given this situation, make a different choice. Do something different than how you've done it before. That's how you learn the lesson. And you don't just learn it the first time you're given that. When you finally have that aha moment and you make a different choice, it doesn't mean that you will make that different choice every single time that lesson is given to you. Maybe you will, and that lesson will be learned quickly, but most likely that lesson is going to be offered repeatedly. Excuse me, it's like practice. It's when you learn a new skill, you have to practice it over and over and over and over for it to become something you're really good at. The universe will give you these lessons again and package it to you again, and they will say, so which choice are you going to make? Are you going to make the choice that leads you towards what you want? Or are you going to fall back into the old pattern and go back to the old choice and do it again? Excuse me. Clearly something needs to be spoken. Hold on. Excuse me. So you'll be given that choice again, and the universe will ask, which choice are you going to make this time? And the lesson is only learned when repeatedly, when that choice is given to you, you make the decision to move in alignment with the direction you want to be in. Excuse me. You move in the direction of where you want to be. So let's make a goal here. This applies across the board. Okay. So let's say your goal is you want to be healthier. You want to reduce your cholesterol, just as an option. So if you know that what you want is to reduce your cholesterol and be healthier, but each time you're given an option for something to eat, you choose something that's a fried food or something that's going to make your cholesterol worse, and you know that you need to stop, you know that if you want to reduce your cholesterol, you have to stop eating those foods. When you're presented with them on an attractive platter, you go somewhere and you're presented with a whole bunch of tempting high cholesterol foods, the lesson is going to be, can you stick to your goal of reducing your cholesterol and saying no to all the temptation in front of you and saying, you know what? No, thank you. I'm going to choose something that's more in line to help me reduce my cholesterol. And for a while, when you first make that decision, you're going to go back to the cholesterol foods. You're going to, because they're so delicious and you want them so badly and you're so used to them. And you're going to go back to eating those cholesterol-rich foods, the things that are going to damage your insides. And eventually you have to come to the decision to say, I'm going to choose not to. I'm going to choose to eat that healthier option. I'm going to choose the fish I'm going to choose the grilled fish instead of the fried fish. I'm going to choose the grilled chicken breast instead of the fried chicken parts. You make decisions. You choose to have, even if it's just to choose to have one slice of bacon instead of the 6 that you used to have. Whatever it is, these small choices compound to greater choices, greater things when we make those choices. So the same thing could be said about breaking your patterns of lessons the universe is providing to you. And this is often behavioral patterns that kept us stuck in existences that we didn't want to be in lives that were unhappy for us, in relationships that made us unhappy, in jobs that made us unhappy. When we continue to do the thing that makes us unhappy and then be mad about the fact that we are unhappy, that will not change the unhappy. The only way to change the unhappy is either to find satisfaction in a way where you are, or to change the situation or the pattern or the relationship or whatever it happens to be. A lot of times in spiritual talk, you'll hear this talk about as karma, a karmic pattern, a karmic relationship, a karmic person, karmic. It's essentially what happens when we are not walking our dharma. So let's take a quick side route, because ADHD, and this is what I do. We'll take a small side route here to take an understanding, since we were talking with Cory Muscara and his post and Buddhism. So let's take a small thing on what he was talking about and what that means in relation to our lives. So our dharma is our path that we are meant to be walking. That's the path that you are on. That is your ultimate purpose. When you get to the end of this path, wherever this path leads you, when you get to the end, you will be your highest, most authentic, most enlightened, you will be enlightened. That's what the Buddhists say. You'll be enlightened when you get to the end of your dharma, your path to walk. Everybody has a different path to walk. Everybody has different lessons that are meant to be learned along that path that they are walking. Now, if you are living a life that is not in alignment with your path, with where you are meant to go, your dharma, if you are not walking the path that is in alignment with your dharma, you're in a job that's not the right job for you, you're in a relationship that is not right for you, and you're staying when you're not supposed to, your thinking patterns, your karmic thinking patterns that are keeping you stuck in places where you are not meant to be, you are not walking your path of the highest truth. You are not walking your path of your true self. You are not walking your path of your authentic self. And because of that, you begin to build bad karma. Bad karma is that karmic pattern. That's that negative stuff. That's feeling stuck, unhappy, miserable, all those low-level things. That is garnered when we are gaining bad karma. And again, we gain bad karma when we are not walking our true path, when we are living a life that is not in alignment with what we're supposed to be doing. When you are living a life that is in alignment of what you're supposed to be doing. So when I say that, I mean, if you are meant to be a healer, that you are walking the path of a healer. If you are meant to be a writer, you are walking the path of a writer. If you're meant to be an artist, you're walking the path of an artist. If you are meant to be a scientist, you are walking the path of a scientist. Whatever it is that you are supposed to be doing, if you are meant to be in a relationship or not in a relationship, whatever it is you are supposed to be doing, whatever lessons were given to you in this incarnation, in this life, whatever those lessons were, if you are living in alignment and doing what you're meant to be doing and listening to your higher self and listening to the divine messages and listening to that sort of stuff and just truly living in alignment with who you are, maybe the spiritual stuff isn't in alignment with your path. That's okay. That might not be for you. If you are living that, then you are going to gain good karma. Good karma is the blessings. That's the random money that you find, random people that you meet who are meant to guide you on this path. You go out somewhere, you talk to somebody, you find a connection, they share something with you that you were supposed to hear. There was some wise wisdom that they dropped on you and you went, oh, you know what? I needed to hear that today. Thank you. When you are living in alignment, that is what that's what your life becomes. It becomes synchronicities. It becomes lessons. It becomes little things because you are walking your path. You get blessed with stuff, good friendships. Things just become lucky. They call it lucky girl syndrome. I've heard that term recently. It's floating around. Lucky girl syndrome, that sort of thing. Lucky person syndrome, that luck is because you are walking in alignment with the proper path. You are walking your dharma. You are where you are supposed to be. And when you are where you're supposed to be, you get good karma. The only time you get the bad karma is when you are not living the life that you are meant to be living. So with that said, those people who need to struggle, excuse me, when we say it's one of the compassionate things we can do for someone might be to let them struggle, because in struggling, they can shake off the bad karma and start living in more alignment, but they cannot find that alignment and that path of their dharma, the correct path, if you try to teach them the lessons by forcing the lessons or preventing them from feeling the boom that goes with hitting the bottom that most people have to hit before they hit the realization and go, you know what? I'm sick of this. I'm done with this. I don't want this anymore. I don't want this life anymore. I don't want these things anymore. I'm going to change. For someone to hit the point of saying, I don't want these things anymore, I'm going to change, they have to experience discomfort. They have to be uncomfortable enough to change. And if you're on the healing path, you know this because that's how you got to the healing path. That's why you got there. It got to a point where living the life that you were living was so unbearable and uncomfortable. You needed to do something different. You needed to make a change. And you started making changes towards your dharma, your path, walking in alignment on your path. And as you walk in alignment on your path, so you'll find as the lessons get learned, the path opens up further. You can never see very far in your path. The whole point is to be moment to moment on the path and trusting that wherever this path is going to take you is in alignment with who you're supposed to be. And as long as you are staying on your path and not, taking off side trails, as long as you're staying, you're going to take some side trails, but as long as you're staying mostly predominantly on your path, things open for you. Good karma, bad karma when you are not living in alignment. So in order for you to get on that path, then there needs to be a conversation of how do you get there? How do you get there? If you're not on the path and you are beginning to realize you are not on the path and you are ready to make a change, how do you get there? Well, Nicole LePera, who is the holistic psychologist, in her, I'm not sure if it was in her book or if it was just some of the posts she shares, but she states that it begins with a single change. It can be a small change. She gave the suggestion of, let's say you want to have better digestion. So maybe in the morning you decide before your cup of coffee, you're going to have a glass of water each day. And there are going to be some days you forget. But if you try to stick with it, try to remember, okay, before I have my coffee, I'm going to have a glass of water to help my system flush out and start to allow your body to be a little bit healthier. Small changes like that begin to add up, making the decision that you're going to get up at a certain time or go to bed at a certain time because it allows you to get more sleep, which helps you feel better. So there are going to be times you forget to do it, but giving yourself grace and forgiveness and saying, it's okay, I forgot, I'll start again tomorrow. And you go right back to it. When you try to stay in that alignment and making those small changes, when they eventually become a habit and you get in the habit of going to bed at this certain time and your body knows it and starts preparing for it, or getting up at a certain time and your body starts waking up naturally at that certain time, you've changed. And that change, added with other little changes,
amounts to larger change. You as a whole person can change entirely with small little choices that you're making. Little ones, all those little choices add up. You make the decision. For me, part of it was learning to love my natural hair and making the small choice the day that I made the decision to go to the curly haired salon and have them teach me how to care for my curls opened up a brand new life for me in understanding that I can love myself as I am. That was a big part of my self-love journey. And that started with one decision to book an appointment at a curly haired salon and say, okay, I'm going to try to love my natural hair. And I've never done it, but I'm going to try to love my natural hair. Another choice I simply made was learning to drive. I got a license just a year ago. I started driving after almost 10 years of not driving. And I was terrified to get on the freeway. It's very fast, and I almost had a panic attack, and it was very, very hard for me. But I told myself what I tell my child. I can do hard things. It might be scary and it might be hard, but I can do hard things. I can face things that are scary and I can overcome them, even if I'm really scared, because courage isn't the absence of fear. Courage is being afraid and doing it anyway. Still doing it, even though you're scared. Still doing it, because even if you don't know how it's going to turn out, you're still willing to do it. Shaking the whole time, but you're still willing to do it. And that's courageous. That's courage. And so I made that small change. Now I drive on the freeway, and it's still a little harrowing. It's still a year later. I didn't even start a year ago driving on the freeway, maybe about 6 months driving on the freeway. But now when I get out there, I can do it. And I'm not scared. I'm not overwhelmed with the idea of doing it. It's now just something that I can do. It's not super comfortable yet. I'm working at it, but it's getting there. I just have to remind myself when I'm driving, I feel my body tense up and say, okay, let a breath out and allow myself to relax and allow myself to let go of the fear that comes up. Feel the fear, acknowledge that, yes, I'm afraid, and then let it go. So that's what I wanted to talk about, because it's so hard to discuss this healing stuff in a small little minute-long video on Instagram. So when we say sometimes the best thing we can do for someone is let them struggle, it's not because we don't care about them. It's not because we don't love them. And it's not because we don't want to help them. It's that sometimes people have to learn their lessons for themselves in order for the lesson to stick, in order for them to grow as a person, in order for them to shirk off their bad karma and to walk their path of dharma. They need to learn the lesson. And if you stop them from learning the lesson, it just makes it take longer, because they still are going to have to learn the lesson, whether you stop them or not, whether you cushion them or not. They still have to learn the lesson, because it is part of their own list of lessons, just as you have your list of lessons. You have to allow them to learn. And it sucks. And it is very, 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 very hard not to step in, because you see them suffering and you love them and you don't want them to suffer. But for them to grow, they have to. They have to. They have to be uncomfortable enough to let go. They have to be uncomfortable enough to let go of the things that are not serving them, the thoughts, the behaviors, the patterns that are not serving them. And you can't do it for them. They have to choose to do it. So if you haven't seen that post, go check it out. It's a good video. I'd highly recommend follow Cory Muscara. He's awesome. I find his insight is very welcome. And as someone who has very heavy leanings into Buddhism and the spirituality of that, I find his content very inspiring and always very timely. The universe always sends the message that needs to be heard when it's meant to be heard. So, fellow humans, I hope that this helped you in some way. I hope that this guided you into more understanding about yourself, who you are, and the lessons that you have, and this crazy path of healing that we are on. It is a wild ride, but it is so worth it. So until next time, keep dropping those things that are holding you back from being your best, your greatest, your most authentic you. and keep learning to love yourself. Because I love you. Until next time.